As hard as it seems to believe, next week is the beginning of Lent. It seems like we just finished the rejoicing and the party of Jesus' birth, and now we're turning gears completely to focusing on his death. And it's a time that often feels dark and heavy and sad and anxious. And it's a time in our church year where sometimes it's hard to be happy and joyful. In some churches, you don't use the word joy during Lent. Now, at this point, even though Jesus has tried to tell them, Peter, James, and John still don't get it. They don't understand what's about to happen, and they're going on with life as usual. Jesus knew they needed a message in a different way. Now, in my day job, I'm a teacher, and I have seen this quote come up many, many times. It's a quote by Ignacio Estrada, and it says, "If the students can't learn the way that we are teaching, then maybe we should teach the way that they learn." Clearly, the disciples were not learning the way it was being taught already, so they had to teach them a different way. So Jesus and God decided to approach things a little differently. He knew that they'd be entering a time of darkness, and he told them so. He'd already had one discussion with them that ended with Peter going, "You need to stop saying that." Peter rebuked him. He dared to criticize him and argue with him. Can you imagine arguing with Jesus? He's trying to tell you something and you're arguing with him? And Jesus scolded him, and he was harsh. He said, "Get behind me, Satan." Jesus knew what was coming, and he knew they weren't ready. The disciples were going to need to be able to find the light in the darkness that was about to come. They needed to learn how to find joy in the tragedy, and he had to show them in a way that they might understand. Cue the lights and the magic of transfiguration. Now, throughout our world and our communities, we know that there are dark corners, right? Places of war, places of famine, places of fear. Places and people that are living in dangerous, dirty, scary situations. Places that some may think God has forgotten. People who feel as though God has forgotten them. And it can be hard to believe that anyone living or working in those situations could find even a glimmer of happiness. Now, in one of the Harry Potter movies, and I don't remember which one it is, I tried to look it up and I could not find it last night. Professor Dumbledore is welcoming the students back to Hogwarts, and he gives his beginning of the year address. And in his welcome speech, he kind of knows something's going to happen. He just has that ability to just sense things. And he reminds the students that happiness can be found in the darkest of times if one just remembers to turn on the lights. And at many times during that series of movies, there are dark times. Harry meets with darkness in many forms. Now, we might not find ourselves living through a war, or living as refugees, or hiding from violence, but every day people in our communities or even our churches find themselves in situations where it can be really hard to find God and light in those situations. But we have to remember those words. Look for the light. Jesus took 3 of his disciples to the mountain, and I have to think he picked Peter for a reason. Now, we know he often taught us through example. He did something. He shared a story. He said, "Look." And as Jesus' clothing began to shine and gleam, along with the presence of Elijah and Moses, God's voice came through, clear and booming loud, "This is my Son, my beloved. Listen to him." There's no arguing with that. God makes it clear that the disciples need to listen to him. Listen to him. Know and understand that dark times are coming. Listen to him. Look for the light in the midst of the darkness. Listen to him. He is the light. Jesus is the light of the world. So even in our darkest times, as we on Wednesday begin this period of Lent, Jesus is there as our light if we just look for him. He can be found in the smile of a stranger, or in the sharing of a story about a loved one who's passed, in the sharing of a meal, or even just a cup of coffee, or in the sharing of a prayer. Where have you seen Jesus' light? And where can you offer Jesus' light to someone who needs it? It's out there. He showed us. He told us, "Listen to me." So let's find it and let's share it. Amen.